I was an Erin's House kid for 5 years, and I've been a volunteer here for 3. The people that I've met here have had such a huge impact on my life, and that's why I hold this place so close to my heart. I started coming after my dad's death. He died by suicide when I was 7 years old. My little sister Abby was only 2. My little brother Ben was 5, and my older brother Joe was 9. When my mom found out how he had died, she couldn't bring herself to tell us the awful truth at first because we were so young. She was trying to protect us from what we couldn't possibly have understood at that age. And I don't even think that I could have believed her if she tried. Because when I remember my dad, there's never even a hint of sadness in his eyes or in his smile. He was so good at putting on his game face when he was around his family and friends and my siblings and I that none of us even suspected the battle that he was fighting. After his death, everything about my life changed. At school, my friends treated me differently. They were extra kind to me, and they gave me their dessert at lunch, let me be first in line for recess. But when it came to what really mattered, when I tried to talk to them about what had happened or about my feelings, they looked uncomfortable, and they kind of shied away from me. None of them knew what to say when I talked about my dad, except for maybe, "I'm sorry," or "that stinks." And those words didn't help me. I didn't even really understand how I was feeling, and I needed someone to talk to about it. My mom was there, but I knew that she was grieving too, and I worried that talking to her or anyone else in my family would make them even more sad. And so I kept all this confusion to myself. Before long, I felt like I was drowning in a sea of grief. Although I was struggling with all of my might to swim back to the comfort of the surface, every time I thought of my dad, I watched it slip farther and farther away, and I remember feeling like I would never be able to fill the empty space that he had left. The longer that I kept all these things bottled up inside me, the harder it became to tell them apart from one another. And pretty soon, I had no idea what was going on inside me. And that made me feel broken and useless, because I felt like I couldn't function anymore. That's when I started coming to Erin's house. And the support that I found there changed everything for me. Coming to group and meeting and bonding with these other kids who felt just as confused as I was and who were hurting just as much made me realize that I wasn't broken and useless, and that I didn't need to be fixed. What I was hurt, and I needed to heal. At Erin's house, I wasn't alone in my confusion and frustration. I couldn't tell anger from fear or sadness from loneliness. But in group, there was no need to be able to explain or identify 100% of what I was feeling, because everyone else there felt a similar way, if not the same. Here I was, finally, in a group of kids just like me, and together we were going to help each other unravel what we were all feeling inside. It was Erin's house that helped my mom to share more with my brother Joe and I about the truth about my dad's depression and suicide. My mom soon faced depression herself in the Erin's house library, where she sat with my little sister when she was too young for group, and the adult group that she attended later on helped give her the tools and the courage that she needed to share more with my brother and I one night when we were 12 and 10, and we wanted to know more about this brain illness that she had said had been the cause of his death. As you can imagine, the word suicide triggered a whole host of new emotions and questions for Joe and I. Neither of us had been exposed to the true meaning of that word until that moment, and we had no idea what to do with it or how to put it into perspective. Joe became angry, and all that I could do was cry. I remember remember how, when I next attended group, I just burst into tears in the quiet room as I told the rest of my group about my dad's depression and suicide. But then I remember how the girls next to me took my hands, and how their words of comfort that night and their words of advice over the next few weeks helped to change my perspective on my dad's death. My facilitators and my group were the ones who helped me to realize that depression isn't something you can understand until you face it. And that no matter what it seemed like to me, my dad had loved me until the day that he died. And that's what I needed to know before I could start healing and moving forward. This is the positive effect that peer support and empathy have on grief. And it's why I chose to come back to Erin's house to be a volunteer facilitator in a 6 to 9-year-old group. Though my story isn't the exact same as that of each of the kids that I work with, we have a basis of empathy that allows me to help them just as they help each other. I love what I do because I know from personal experience that it is changing the lives of my kiddos for the better. It's helping them find happiness at a time when that is the hardest emotion of all to feel. So much of who I am today, I owe to this organization, and I'm not alone in this. Being around other kids who feel like you do makes you feel normal, comfortable, and safe. And that kind of companionship is life-changing because it allows you to explore your grief in a positive way and to discover new ways to cope with it without the fear of being seen as weird or different. Grief is a labyrinth. You'll face dead ends, be forced to retrace your steps, fall through trapdoors, and be surprised at what lies around each and every corner. There's never a clear path, and often what looks like the path of least resistance still requires a lot of strength and determination that you sometimes feel like you just don't have. Erin's house gives you a friend in that maze. It gives you someone to explore your grief with, someone to pick you back up when you fall down and scrape your knee, and someone to stand by your side when the light gets dark. Erin's house gives you the opportunity to grow in your grief, in a place where you don't feel that you're alone. And that's what I believe to be the key to finding healing after a death. The companionship, compassion, and empathy present in each and every group truly does help heal both the heart, mind, and spirit of each grieving child. This type of healing is truly a gift, and it's made possible by the generosity of others. Programming comes at no cost to families, so that in the chaos that succeeds a death, parents don't have to worry about affording the help that their children so desperately need at that time. Because Erin's house receives no government funding nor any kind of insurance benefits, this program remains free of charge because of the support of grants and donations from others who are willing to pay it forward, and the work of volunteers who are willing to give of their time. When you support Erin's house, know that you're directly affecting the lives of every kid that goes there. You're helping them find healing and peace during what will be one of the hardest experiences of their lives. I feel blessed to be part of an organization that has such an immense positive effect on the grieving children of our community. By giving, whether it's of your time as a volunteer such as myself, or your money as a donation, you're making yourself a part of that positive impact. You are making yourself a part of their healing process. Just as your generosity has made a huge difference in my life, it continues to make differences in the lives of many, many more children. So thank you for your generosity, because there's no better reason to give.